is Marina from Darkstar Astrology, bringing you the November forecast and horoscopes. Now, I thought instead of filming it, which is so much of a effort to edit all the time, in order to bring you these, because I know that people do like them, I thought I'll just do audio because it's just so much easier to edit, and it is a complex one because I've got all the horoscopes to put in as well. So that's what I'm going to do from now on. I still will film the moon ones because they're a lot more visual, and I've got the nice, you know, the illustrations and things like that, and the crystal. But for this one, really, I'm just going to put the charts, and that's all we need, really. So the main aspect pattern that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to see what it does for each sign, is well, I'm calling it the magic eye. It is a Huber aspect pattern, and it's known as the eye, and it's basically formed from a sextile joined by two semi-sextiles, and that's the planet at the apex of the semi-sextiles is basically the midpoint of the sextile anyway, but it gives intense focus, so we'll look at that later. But before that, I'm just going to kind of flick through the chart as it goes forward through the month. There's nothing, well, we've got the tail end of that T-square that I talked about in the November horoscope, so we don't really need to go on about that. We still got the nodes being squared by Uranus, but now they've moved into Aries, and it's a cardinal T-square now. But really, I'd say that it's going to be kind of quite nice Christmas in terms of there's no really stressful aspect patterns coming up. There's a Mars-Neptune conjunction at 13 Pisces, which is going to be on Antares. Now that's very zealous, really. It is a bit preachy because Antares as a star is it's supposed to be success in ecclesiastical matters. So when you put Neptune and Mars on top of that, that's really like a spiritual warrior. It's very Joan of Arc. So we may get, this is December the 7th, we might get some very sermon-like speeches coming from our political leaders or people in the media. And of course, you know, it's not just actual religious figures who could be coming out preaching whatever they want to preach about. But it's also can be, I mean, what I'm calling a political cult, really, the whole cult of progressiveness, is the same thing. We could get the same kind of preaching from politicians who will be, I suppose, well, we're coming up to Christmas, so there's going to be a lot of charity, virtue signaling type things happening because it is Christmas, and of course it's the season of goodwill to all men. So watch for people taking that opportunity to show how wonderful they are with what they're donating or what good cause they're supporting, you know. So I think that will be the day for it, December the 7th. So watch out for those. Now, Mercury's stationing direct actually on that day as well, and it's trining the North Node. Now, what's Mercury on? It's not on any particular star, but the North Node is on Procyon, which is the announcer star. So I think something big will be announced on December the 7th. I don't know what, but it's something that makes whoever announces it look so godly and so wonderful, you know. So I mean, this is kind of covert narcissistic. Well, it's a covert narcissist wet dream, basically. So we'll see who could be the most virtuous on that day. Now, the day of the new moon, and in fact, the day before, really, when we have the winter solstice on December the 21st. So on that day, we have a Venus trine Neptune, and that's so dreamy. Neptune is on, again, it's on that Antares, but it's also in between Antares and Ankar, which is the it's a star in the Phoenix, so it is like Phoenix from the flames as well. It's very sort of a resurrection type energy. Well, of course, I mean, that's just perfect for the winter solstice, because guess what? You know, it's the sun at its lowest point, but then of course it's going to rise again. So that's a very hopeful type of synchronicity there with Neptune being on that star as well. Also, I really like the fact that Venus is also on Acrux, which is a star in the crucifix. So that's really lovely, spiritual, soulmatey kind of dreamy love. And Venus is also, though, you've got to kind of watch out, because it is also on Zuban El Janubi, which is the scale of loss as well. And Alphecca, which is such a camp, it's a really camp star. It's very effeminate. It's supposed to be effeminate if men have this, have their Venus on there. But I mean, I don't know, we have to update it, I guess, and say that it just could be men who do like to explore their feminine side, I guess, and dress up in quite flamboyant clothes. Let's put it that way. I mean, it is, you know, the time of the year where there are parties, and even dressing up as Santa Claus or an angel or whatever it is. I mean, that's very Alphecca. Also, Alphecca likes things like, it likes a lot of bling. So you could also say that men who sort of pose around in big heavy gold jewellery is also Alphecca, and wearing crowns and all that sort of pageantry that kings wear is all very Alphecca. So it doesn't necessarily have to be effeminate, but it's very elaborate and it's very glamorous, no matter whether it's a male or female, I guess. So yeah, so December the 21st is a day for pageantry, and a great day for a party. If you're going to have a fancy dress party or a nativity, have a fancy dress party with theming it things to do with anything angelic, really, gods and goddesses, that type of thing. So yeah, that's Venus and trine Neptune. And then we have Mercury now direct conjunct Jupiter, which we already had when it was retrograde as well. But when it was retrograde, or when it is retrograde, because I'm recording this now, and you're going to see it before you're going to hear this before Mercury does this conjunction anyway, the first time. And the first time it's going to be with the Sun and Jupiter. And I did the whole Mercury retrograde special is about the effect of the Sun, Mercury and Jupiter conjunction, and how that will affect your sign. So go to that if you want to find out what it'll do. But when there's that conjunction, it's on quite difficult stars. Deshubba, which is one of my sort of what I call a bit of a dark star. It's a bit of a psychopath. Has psychopathic tendencies, but it doesn't mean that it's like that all the time. And Acrab, which again is another difficult star, because these are both in Scorpio and they're in the forehead of Scorpio. Now this one is on Antares. When we have this conjunction, it will be on Antares, and Antares is the heart of the Scorpion, and it's a very potent star, but it's not as, I don't think it won't be as malefic as Deshubba and Acrab, because Antares has got the ability, again, to sort of resurrect itself and to redeem itself, but it's so powerful. It's a very powerful weapon. So again, at this time, words are going to have a real potency, and when you combine that with what's going on with the Venus trine Neptune, you've got, that's romantic, complete spellbinding romantic words there. So just be careful you don't fall under somebody's spell if they are someone who hasn't got your best interests at heart. But otherwise, hopefully it'll be loving, proper, real love words, and not somebody trying to manipulate. But again, there's always two ways to use these energies, and so just be on your guard. But also, if you want to use it to make an impression, if you want to pitch an idea to someone, and you have these plugged into your chart, then really you will be able to charm the birds out of the trees with these combinations. And that's on December the 21st and the 22nd as well. They're still together. Then December the 26th, on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, then we have Venus conjunct Ceres. And this is when the eye starts to kind of get together and formulate its plan, I guess. Now, Venus and Ceres together can be, a really loving mother, like really loving, and not someone who's going to be narcissistic or engulfing. But then it could be that as well. It just depends, because on the one hand, they're both on the scale of gain in Libra, Zuba Neshkimali, and that's the northern scale, which is supposed to be more lucky. And but then it's also in Scorpio, which Venus is in her, it's in her detriment. So it can be spiteful, used the wrong way, or it can be very loving and generous and very, I'd say, fiercely protective. That's its kind of positive manifestation there. And with Mars in Pisces that we have all this month, really, there is definitely this kind of spiritual warrior side to things as well. And protection, wanting to protect and defend. So let's go on to look at this eye then. So yes, I forgot to mention that Mercury does station direct on December the 7th as well. So let's look at this magic eye. Now, some might experience it as the evil eye. And if you know anything about the evil eye, if you're Greek or Sicilian, or I think some areas of the Middle East as well, then people used to wear these little amulets that you can get. You've probably seen them if you go to Greece. Everyone knows those little blue eyes, which were they were seen as a protection against. Originally, apparently, it was a protection against the Turks, because apparently they had blue eyes, which is kind of strange. But so it was protection against them and their invasion. But it's also seen as, if somebody is jealous and they look at you in the wrong way, that kind of glare, that evil glare, it's almost like a curse. It can be quite cursatory towards you. And I was thinking, I've seen this kind of evil eye coming out of narcissists, when they get angry with you, when you're not doing well, when you're just not complying with what they want, and you're actually showing signs of being an actual individuated person, they just give you this eye, this really kind of like glary eye. And yeah, it looks quite demonic as well. They look like it's like they're suddenly possessed. But anyway, so as I said before, this is a Huber aspect pattern with the two semi-sextiles meeting at the midpoint. And they say that it gives great piercing focus for the eye as well. So this eye starts to form on December the 28th properly. And these are the players. So you've got Venus and Ceres around 20 to 22 degrees of Scorpio, and then they make a sextile with Pluto on the other side in Capricorn, and then Lilith joins there as well. And they're both meeting up with Mercury at 22 Sagittarius. So now the individual parts of this are just so interesting as well, because Mercury will be on Ras Al Khaig, which is the most important star of Ophiuchus. So he's the healing, the snake charmer, who is holding the snake, and it's in his forehead. So I just think it's uncanny really that it falls on the third eye basically of Ophiuchus. So learning to develop our intuition is going to be really enhanced by this third eye, really, especially if you've got something around 22 Sagittarius, because it's going to be very focused on that. And not only that, but Venus aligns with Una Carli, which is actually in the snake that Ophiuchus is holding. Now this one means, I mean, it's quite fearsome, it's quite treacherous, you know, because also Ceres is close by, and Ceres can be the jealous mother-in-law as well. But here's what Venus on Unokalai means: enmity, jealous of own sex, bad for domestic matters, but favourable for gain, secret death, probably by poison. Jesus, don't let your mother-in-law do the cooking. Oh dear. No, sorry, not all mother-in-laws, okay? But it's quite freaky, really. So yeah, like I said, it could be quite treacherous with Ceres being close by as well. You see, Ceres can be herbs as well. So herbal remedies, just make sure you don't overdose yourself with them, because they can be, well, they're going to be very potent at this time. So while Ceres can be herbal cures, it can be herbal highs as well, and also poisonous foods like mushrooms and berries. So yeah, like I said, be careful what you eat. And food poisoning could be a thing over Christmas, and of course this is the time of year when we are indulging a lot, so the dangers of alcohol poisoning are also very high this year. So otherwise, you know, as with all the dark stars, there's also the potential for a great detox and healing to take place on this night as well. So if your body is in need of a rest after Christmas indulgences, stay at home, don't go out for New Year, drink a load of kale juice, take a bath filled with green crystals, and have a very happy and verdant New Year. I know that sounds really boring, doesn't it? But, you know, it's, if you are one of these people who are very, 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 you know, that you have food intolerances, then maybe that would just be the best thing to do. So, okay, let's have a look at what it's going to be for each sign. So for Aries, the magic eye for you is focused on your 9th house of higher learning and travel. You may be experiencing great transformation in your career as a result of your eyes suddenly being open to either international markets or other cultures very different from your own. Studies of ancient wisdom will illuminate you, and a holiday focuses your attention on the direction you need to grow as a person. With Ceres and Venus in the house of the psyche and taboo, mother-daughter or mother-in-law issues can surface for healing, but there can also be a painful realization as the skeletons long buried in the basement come up screaming for attention. Pluto Lilith in the house of the mother could mean the evil eye manifests as jealousy from a female authority figure or a mother figure. Now, this is a great position if you are studying for a degree or master's, especially if it actually is in the field of psychology or the law. Other subject matters to get your teeth into would be magic, the occult generally, and propaganda. This eye can work most magically if you learn how to respond rather than react to triggers from manipulative females. There are very subtle energies at work and a lot of covert operations. And if you work in a large corporation, you could uncover some secret plots from your superiors, but not know what to do with the information. Will your ethics allow you to work there now that you know the truth? So, Taurus, now if a relationship has gone pear-shaped during the last Mercury retrograde, then this is the time to give it a good post-mortem. Lie yourself down on the couch and greet your shadow. Whatever has been triggering you for the last 3 weeks comes to a head during the eye. Suddenly, you see in searingly sharp focus the root of what is causing your love obsession, if there is one. This person is just pointing a great big arrow at your childhood wounds and why you have had such problems with certain members of your own sex. Yep, it all boils down to parental issues, but a lot of it can also be culture clashes, especially if you are the child of immigrants. With so much energy in your house of foreigners, you may be tempted to go back to the country of your parents' or grandparents' origins to gain some understanding of why your parents are giving you such a hard time. If the problems do not stem from your parent, then it could be that you are having a hard time adjusting to university life or a new job in a foreign country. Of course, this is the time of the year when family becomes highlighted, so it could be quite painful seeing other families united and happy around you. But don't be too harsh on yourself. Allow yourself enough time to settle into your new family and grieve what you have left behind. So the magic eye for Gemini. This puts great focus on a relationship, so you could literally have your eye on someone. Be careful of stalking though, because it's a very obsessive bunch of planets. So you all know that song, Put a Spell on You 'Cause You're Mine. Well, that is you over the New Year period. However, it might be just a harmless yearning from afar. And if you have not had any love interest for a while, then forgive yourself if you feel like you're getting too carried away. Jupiter has entered your 7th house after all, so there is a lot of oomph in that department anyway. There's also the danger of the dark Cupid shooting off his arrows, also just to test out how much you have learned about love bombing versus a realistic, slow developing attraction to a mate. Another possibility is becoming very triggered by your enemy or ex at this time, since the 7th house is also the house of open enemies. Realise that they are deliberately poking you to get a reaction, and this is the negative supply that fuels a true narcissist. But in the end, it will be you that feels drained and upset for days after, so don't rise to the bait. Realise that after they have tormented you, they will walk off gleefully recharged with your precious life force. Don't let them take it. Instead, walking away silently could be your resurrection. So Cancer, despite this being the holiday period, it's going to be very hard for Cancer to put its laptop away, because right now there is one particular routine that's really grabbed you. This could be some health regime that you want to research everything about, or it just could be a project that demands that you keep a strict timetable with how much information you need to input every day. If there is a niggling health problem that just won't go away, look into the psychological causes, since Pluto and Lilith in your house of enemies' spouse could point to them as being the cause. It is important to set boundaries with them if they've not been doing their fair share of the workload. The eye is very much focused on dividing your week into the right balance of work, rest and play. And if there's an imbalance, then you will see it very clearly in physical symptoms. Visible signs might be a skin rash, bags or shadows under your eyes, or just coming down with the mother of all colds. If you have really neglected yourself, then you might actually get a sty in your eye. Now, Ceres and Venus are in the house of children and play, so taking the kids to holiday festivities may be the only way you can get a break. But whatever you do, make sure you have someone to play with, even if it's just the cat. Now, a great thing to do at this time is getting the younger members of the family to help you cook nutritious, hearty winter stews. And it will be a great idea for childless couples to schedule a weekend away at a spa or go somewhere where there at least is no Wi-Fi. So for you, Leo, the biggest problem with this aspect pattern will be having eyes that are bigger than your stomach. You're lucky enough to have the eye focused on pleasure and your lover, which is perfect for the season's celebrations. But of course, this is also an excuse for indulgence supreme. You really will be the life and soul of all parties. However, not that you ever really need help with that, but if you do happen to throw a New Year's Eve party, 2018's is likely to be the most memorable one you will ever have, both for you and your guests. But watch out, the alcohol poisoning I mentioned in the general forecast especially applies to you. Make sure hygiene standards in your kitchen are at the highest as they can be, as you don't want your party to be memorable in the toilet sense. Anyone helping you in the kitchen and yourself should lay off the alcohol. Otherwise, they're likely to do stupid things like leaving the salmon mousse unattended so that it meets with the tongue of your cat. Otherwise, you should really enjoy having Ceres, Venus making your home cozy and inviting, which will be a great antidote if you have been working too hard. Again, there is that possibility that there will be excessive amounts of Dionysian revelry, and there will certainly be a good few sore heads on January the 1st, but you will have had such a great time, no one will care. But make sure you've got enough Bloody Marys and or milk thistle for those sensible, healthy ones to go round the next day. So for Virgo, a get-together with the neighbours over the new year is likely to be excellent fun as the eye straddles across the home sector of your chart. These few days will be about keeping close to the range and not straying too far from your siblings or children. You will want to unite everyone under one roof and make sure that they're all well fed and watered. As always with Lilith Pluto, there is the possibility of the green-eyed monster appearing during these few days, and it could be due to interference from a bitter female relative. The mother-in-law triangulation problems of Ceres are most likely to affect Virgos, as the Persephone myth is associated with the Virgo archetype anyway. Sibling rivalry could be a result of deliberate scapegoating by a narcissistic relative. An example could be an obvious discrepancy in present value given to one sibling over another. And Mercury can be vocal here in its expression of injustice. However, we do have the influence of a particularly kind Cancerian full moon on December the 22nd, so hopefully love will shine through and the upset will not leave any long-lasting scars in the unfortunate kid who got shortchanged. In the end, a kindly aunt or uncle steps in to save the day and iron out the wrinkly demon. It may be a case where blood certainly isn't thicker than water, and non-biological visitors from over the garden fence make much better merriment than certain members of your dysfunctional family. If you do suspect a troublesome family member could cause trouble, invite a lonely but appreciative local person to dilute the tension. You might find this stranger will appreciate your hospitality far more than that awkward blood connection. So Libra, the eye focuses on your local area and siblings, or at least people who you regard as your brethren. Like Virgo, you will also want to keep close to your nest, only there could be some pressure building within your actual home. Maybe you have a guest staying for this period and they've become much more challenging than you had anticipated. Lilith and Pluto in the house of the father or the house of parents in general can mean that the evil eye is generated by an envious parent. Just like Aries, your opposite sign, you also have the same problem of a toxic or narcissistic parent who might try and stir up drama over these few days. This could just be because they have cabin fever themselves and want to release a pressure valve. If this is the case, try and let some steam out before it gets to the explosive stage, and make sure you give the guests space. But if they won't give you space, then just go out and leave them to play with a cat. You can buy your freedom with cash with this eye, as you have a nice crop of pentacles blossoming in your cash sector. Again, this may be the reason for the evil eye if the parent feels you are much more successful than they are. This is particularly marked in father-son relationships where the father feels old and impotent. And if the father or any other parents have an alcohol problem, also, then that could show up quite strongly, as Lilith is the forbidden fruit. At the very worst, this could even be an older male relative giving his wrinkly old eye to younger family members, which is just gross. But sorry to bring such unsavouriness to what should be a fun time, but the festive spirit can bring out the worst demons. So either lock up your liquor or finish your parental visits by December the 27th. So for Scorpio, ka-ching, ka-ching, that's the sound of cash ringing in the tills of your brain, which means your eye's focus is, of course, going to be money. You should have no trouble at all attracting it either with Venus Ceres in your personal zone, making you seductive and alluring. It's like you are coated in some kind of very fluffy, feather-soft down, which makes everyone want to cuddle you and treat you to expensive gifts. Your loved ones will just love to pay for all your drinks and nights out, and you stand to have the present collection this Christmas ever. You have the Midas magic eye touch for all things that glitter, But with that, you also get the evil eye from less successful and insecure friends or family. You're still reaping the benefit of Jupiter having been in your sign, but now it's in your cash house. Mercury as part of the eye is keenly watching its investments, but it's also keeping an eye on how other members of the family are splashing out a little too enthusiastically. You might be getting all the material benefits, but you want to hold on to them too. You are being sensible, however, and although your family and friends might call you tight-fisted, they will be thankful that the cash that you made wasn't splurged on festive gorging. You will, however, feel quite pressured to spend it on your little darlings when they see others seem to be having no handbrake when it comes to festive spending. Suddenly, everyone is a financial advisor or your best friend now that you have more pennies to your name. A gold-digging brother or sister-in-law could also have their eye on your booty, so be careful that they don't flatter you into parting with your wallet. So Sagittarius, well, you have all the eyes actually on you for New Year's festivities as the eye aspect zooms right in on your lovely body. So make sure you give them something to gawp at and not just a sight for sore eyes, as the saying goes. With Jupiter expanding its great gassiness in your own sign, it might be very hard to resist the indulgences though. Now, one of the unfortunate benefits of Jupiter in your own sign, now this is only if you're reading it for your ascendant, is the propensity to weight gain. On the other hand, Jupiter also gives you bags of energy too, so get active. It shouldn't be too difficult to start a New Year gym program, as this is the time of the year when gyms snare those post-Christmas bingers with their special offers. With Venus and Ceres in your house of self-undoing, you could self-sabotage with food and forbidden fruit. There is a lot of temptation out there, and I don't just mean the food variety. You could be lured into an illicit affair because your confidence might have taken a battering over the Christmas period. There is some clearing of toxic shame in the area of self-esteem, as the build-up of Capricorn planets creates a pressure cooker in your house of cash and values. So allow yourself to express disdain if anyone has been devaluing you, because if you let it fester, things could boil over into a sticky mess by the stroke of 12 on New Year's Eve. You have the best opportunity to really enjoy this eyeballing. And you could have anyone you want if you act openly and honestly. But the worst thing you can do is bottle things up. Hopefully, if you get the balance right, the only thing exploding this new year will be the fireworks. So Capricorn, for you, the magic eye will work as your third eye as you have it focused on your mystical zone. The 12th house is your netherland where you will have access to other planes of existence. If you're a spiritual being living in a physical body, then you will enjoy this boost in psychic and intuitive ability. Of course, this is also the house of hidden enemies and self-undoing. So with Lilith and Pluto in your personal zone, your attraction to the forbidden fruit and dark Cupid type relationships is very high too. Keep close to trusted friends because they will keep you on the straight and narrow and help you focus on who to trust and who not to. Although your intuition is indeed ultra sensitive, you might be so enamored with your forbidden fruit that you will willfully ignore any red flags. On the other hand, you could find out who your real friends or real enemies are when you see who's kissing who on the stroke of midnight. The possibility of alcohol poisoning is very high since your body is very sensitive to poisons, which of course alcohol is one. You're extra sensitive to toxic people, so listen to how your body reacts when it comes close to certain folk. This is the time you could discover that an enemy was disguised as a friend and all was not what it seemed. So Aquarius, the magic eye is locked onto your hopes and dreams, and because of this, if you really focus on potent imagery in your mind, you could actually manifest your vision into reality. Some of the spell involves weeding out those hidden enemies and exorcising them from your life. A lot of detoxing is happening on the inside anyway, away from the eyes of the public, but it has yet to show its effect on the outside. The forbidden fruit of mind-altering drugs is still a temptation, but so is using spirituality as a form of escapism. Be careful that your new mystical practice does not draw you into cult-like communities. Your gift for making magic could get you noticed by dubious members of the New Age who are after a charismatic front person to lure people into their group. So try to keep as independent as possible and put your focus on what you can manifest for yourself rather than becoming a tool for others. Your career path offers you some fruits of reward that are not of the forbidden variety, with the fertile Venus-Ceres conjunction giving you the funds to finance your grand vision for the future. It may be quite hard to keep your mind in the present with the eye constantly peering over the horizon. Since you are at the threshold of the year and almost at your birthday month, it would be a good idea to tune into the god Janus, who the month January is named after. The triple-headed god faced both the past and the future while still managing to hold his head in the present too. So last but not least, it's Pisces. So for you, the eye can play out in two very important ways. The first way is a total focus on your status in the world, and the other is on the state of the relationship with your mother. Both are interrelated really, and you get to find out how much they are, depending on what kind of career boost or not you receive around this time. If you experienced your mother as critical and you always felt like a failure, then you may be fearful of putting yourself forward for promotion. It won't be that you have done substandard work compared to others, just that your shyness has made you invisible to the people that matter. On the other hand, if you had a mother who always sang your praises, then the opposite will happen and you will really stand out above the crowd. Jupiter is up there too, raising your status, so it would be a real shame if you don't take advantage of Jupiter's golden plinth to showcase your talents. The eye is really looking at your status in the world, but if you choose to hide behind the curtain, then the spotlight will be wasted. Another great possibility is that you're changing your status from single to married, or simply in a relationship. New Year's Eve is a time when many a would-be husband chooses to get down on one knee, and to do it in front of all your friends at a party would be very appropriate for this aspect pattern, the way it lies in your horoscope. As always, there's still the possibility of jealousy coming from Lilith Pluto. So if you choose New Year to make a grand announcement, make sure you have your Greek, Sicilian, Turkish eyeballs on you to avert their toxic glare. Yes, I know it's a silly superstition, but in some cases it can be quite reassuring to hold an eye for an eye. Okay, well that brings me to the end of the horoscope part. So yeah, I hope you like this way of doing it. It's just easier for me, and also I can speak closer to the microphone as well, so it probably is better sound quality also. And yes, I apologise for the aeroplanes. There were quite a lot tonight for some weird reason, and you could probably hear a sort of shh kind of sound in the background, which is because I'm near the flight path, but I soon won't be in a year's time. I'm moving, so it'll hopefully you'll just hear the sounds of nature and birds singing. Anyway, okay, so yeah, that brings me to the end. So do come to Darkstar Astrology for the rest of the monthly horoscopes. They're in much more detail, and you can check out 2019 horoscopes as well. They're all out as well. And yeah, thanks for listening. All the best. Bye-bye.